What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Great.
Tony, just what were your initial impressions of Friday night?
You know what? A loss is a loss. It makes you sick. We put so much time in, and the players do, to come that close at the end. You know, we were winning right at the end. Then we're tied up, and then had a chance right there to move the football. And you're so close, but you still came up short. We did a lot of really good things in the game. We did a lot of things that we still got to clean up. We got some guys at some spots, just young guys that we got to clean up some stuff. We left a lot of yards and some points out on the table. That you know what? That's part of football. And we got to get it cleaned up so we can rectify that into more yards and points.
Obviously, there's a microscope at the end of games. That last possession, what were the breakdowns on that last possession?
Breakdowns.
Just a couple sacks.
You know what? We had a couple sacks. You know, obviously we got to do better in protection right there. We had a route where we had somebody a little bit quicker decision by the quarterback, maybe right there on the swing route. Could have been a huge play, but that stuff happens. I mean, that happens all the time. I got to do a better job. I met with BP yesterday and the quarterbacks. We got to do a better job as quarterbacks of making it to where we make those right decisions on time. You know, Coach Miller and our offensive line doing better protection, holding up for just that split second. You know, Coach B talks about strain, and there's just that little bit of difference right there that makes a difference in one of those plays. Instead of that being a sack, it's a big play down the sideline. We're down there and we're in field goal range and we win the football game. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard to win football games in the Big Ten and the Power Five, and we're close. We're right there. We just got to clean up some things so we can finish it off and get a victory.
What is your loss? There's so many opportunities to say what if. Could have maybe changed the game. Do you go through, is it worth focusing on each of those, quote, little things?
I think it is. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and when a game's over like that, whether it's win or lose, I immediately go to what could I have done better? You know, what could my position have done better? What could I have done better? What could we have done better as an offensive staff? What could our players have done better? How can we make it simpler, or whatever we got to do to make it right? And I think you got to look at all those small details, whether you win or lose. I think the biggest mistake people make is they want to overly analyze it when you lose, and then you win a football game and all of a sudden you're not looking at the stuff you need to be looking at and fixing for the future right there. So I really try and do that after a win or a loss and make sure we're going back and things are right, and if they're not, trying to fix it and get it right.
What is your evaluation of Brandon's first full game at quarterback?
Yeah, you say full game, but really it's his first game. I mean, he didn't play, I don't know how many plays in the Nebraska game, so it's his first full game with us. You know what, he did some really good stuff, and he missed a couple reads. And by missing a couple reads, we left a couple big plays out on the table that could have made a difference right there. And he's pissed at himself, and that's what I love about him, is he's a competitor. He wants to do well. He wants to succeed at every play and make the right decisions. And we got to learn from that, because that game's behind us now. So I'm excited where BP's at and excited about him going forward.
Coach Bielema said after the game that there was some consideration to go to Art for that final drive. Just where do you stand quarterback-wise?
You know what? I was good with BP right there, and that's the decision at the end of the game. The head coach makes that decision if we're going to make a switch at quarterback, and we stuck with BP. I still think it's the right decision right there to bring another guy in for that last drive. I don't think would have been the right decision, but that's totally up to Coach B, and I agree with the decision he made right there. And we could easily be sitting here and we had a great win because he made a great throw right there at the end, and everybody feels a lot different.
You've spoken a lot about Art's intangibles and how inspired you are to see him get the troops rally around him. But in terms of his arm talent, what have you kind of seen him really improve upon in the last couple of weeks?
You know what? Art's you're talking about Art, correct?
Yeah.
Art does a great job of trying to make really good decisions, getting the ball out on time. We talk about that a lot with him right now, where his arm's at and his arm strength. He does not have the same arm talent currently that BP does as far as getting the ball out and the velocity right there. So he's got to make sure he's super on top of his decisions and making sure the ball's coming out on time, especially if he's throwing the ball to the field. So I'm excited where Art's at right now. BP's our starting quarterback. Art's our backup right now, and I feel fortunate to have two guys in those positions.
What did you make of? I mean, we saw a lot more Josh and a lot more Chase Brown. Just as you narrowed that running back room, what did you make out of what those two were able to get?
You know what? As we keep going forward, that's probably I'm saying, and knock on wood right there. You know, at running back, we talked a lot about it over the last 4 weeks, and I'm glad we've got 4 or 5 guys that can play because we need them. But health-wise, if we stay healthy moving forward, that's probably the two main guys that you'll see in the running back position. Not saying that Reggie can't be in there and Jakari, and they've got things that they do, and Reggie had a good game and Jakari had some good plays. We just, you can't play 4 running backs. So as long as we're healthy, those are probably going to be the two main guys that are in there getting the carries.
Tony, on the interception on the near side right after the turnover, is that a good read and just a bad throw?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great read. He went back on a play action, and we cleared it out, and it got all junked up on a read into the boundary. We had an out and up type of deal, and the tight end was coming over on the over route, and if you watch the film, he's wide open, and he's coach, that's a terrible throw. He said, I just threw it high, and it happened to go over the tight end's head right there, and because the out and up got kind of jammed up on the coverage, the defender happened to be just standing right there. So, you know what? I hate it. I hate turnovers, and especially in the red zone, and it made me sick right there. But that's a bad pass, and at the end of the day, that happens at times.
Coach, when you look at the passing game, and obviously it's probably where you wanted it to be on Saturday, what can you kind of do to get your receivers to get more separation downfield and just get them more open as the season goes on?
Well, I mean, we're playing against some talented DBs, some long, talented DBs that can run, and that makes it tough at times. Some get some bunch stuff, some stack, trying to do some things to get some separation right there. And we've got to be able to do that and continue to try and help. And receivers got to keep developing and working on their craft right there to get the separation at the top of routes. Because sometimes it's the difference between a guy's a half yard from you and a yard and a half from you, and that makes a difference in a catch and an incompletion. So we got to work on it as coaches and keep working with the players on their fundamentals to get that separation.
Tony, I know they're coming back from injuries, but Jafar Armstrong and Brian Hightower obviously have some talent. What's the process of them coming back, and do you expect them to be a part of that rotation anytime soon?
As they get back, we're young at wide receiver, but I think we've got a lot of talent wide receiver. We're trying to get Deuce in there as much as we can. He's getting more plays every week and getting more comfortable. Isaiah, even though he's a really good player, and I don't look at the stats that much, but he probably leads us in receptions. He's talented, but he's super young still. I mean, he's still learning. So those guys coming back, being able to get in there, they've got to get in there and prove that they deserve to be in there over other people.
What have you seen from them so far? Brian and
Jafar. I mean, I think they're close to getting back to where they're like healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got to make sure that they earn their way back onto the field. But, they're close right there on being healthy 100%.
Are there ways to get Isaiah more involved? I mean, he does a lot of pre-snap motion. Is there ways to get him more involved in like jet sweeps or quick little? I mean, we saw it early, but is there a way to get a little more?
Yeah, and we have some motion sometimes, and when we don't what we call tap him the football or whatever, the quarterback doesn't like the jet sweep look out there, so that's a pre and post snap kind of decision sometimes. So we'll play certain defenses where we might tap it 2 or 3 times to them, and some where we don't tap it any, depending on how they line up right there. So kind of those depend on how the defense is playing on whether Isaiah's getting those.
Tony, in the run game, have you been satisfied with maybe getting your offensive lineman out on the perimeter? Because it seems like when you're able to do that, you're able to break a couple. When you're just running it through gut with.
Yeah, and we've got to mix it up, and we talk about it a lot. Coach B comes in, and we spend a lot of time talking about getting the ball in the perimeter, not only in the passing game, but in the running game. Sure. And whether it's the pin and pull stuff, whether it's maybe a crack and a toss right there, and we're always trying to have a balance of inside and outside, type of runs on the perimeter. I think we're doing a pretty good job. We talked to our guys a lot about, and Coach B's been on them big this week on straining that little extra, because we're so close. If you're really watching some plays out there where we might have some 7 and 8 yard runs that are so close to being 50 and 60 yard touchdowns. And you know what? That's part of the process, and we're just going to keep grinding.
When did it click with Josh? It seemed like early on you guys didn't talk a lot about him. He's a freshman, right? But now you're talking like he's one of the top 2 backs. Like what changed for him during training camp or even during the season here?
Well, when Josh came in as a freshman, you never know what freshmen are going to do, especially at the running back position. And when he first came in and was here in the summer and started going through camp, I'm kind of watching his maturity, just his body language, everything, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't see it this year. I mean, I didn't see that. And then about a week or so, 2 weeks before we kind of got in the season, right before we opened up right there, and Coach B was talking to me about it, and you could see it change in him. And all of a sudden it was like, you know what, this kid might be able to play this year. He might be ready. And then all of a sudden you get him in the game and you start giving him the football, and just as he's developed these last 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, every week without a doubt, he's ready to go and be a main back for us right there. So early on, I would have said no, but as it started going there through camp, I mean, he really matured and grew up and took that role.
How important do you think it is for BP to have game reps. I mean, obviously was the outcome you wanted, but to have those game reps now and to, I guess, build on that going into the next week.
You know, it's huge. I mean, I would love for BP to have gotten to play that game and already had 3 games under his belt. I think a couple little decisions, just a couple little things. I played the position, you know, not playing at all for those first 3 games basically, and then getting thrown in there. It's just, it's not the same. And doesn't mean he didn't play well. He played his butt off, did a lot of really good things. But he knows and I know that he could have played at a little bit higher level throughout that game, especially with more reps right there. So he's not any different than any other quarterback or any other position. The more reps they get out in the field, the more comfortable they feel and the better they play.
Would you like to see his clock speed up a little bit in some of those sack situations?
You know what? There was a couple, you know, we talked about it where he's got to speed that clock up and hey, it's not there. I need to throw the football away. That's part of the process right there. Also making sure that we're going through our progression correctly. Sometimes BP, to be honest with you, we talk about he actually will go through his progression a little too fast. You know, he's taken a lot of reps. I mean, he's a guy who's played a lot of college football, and all of a sudden he'll get off a primary read just a smidge early when really that's where the ball should have went. So just spending some time on that and making sure that we're locked in right there. And I can't wait to watch him play this week after him going out there last week. He knows he left a few plays out there, and he wants to clean it up.
What do you see on tape with Purdue?
I see a really good defense. Their defense coordinator, one of the coaches that called it, is a friend of mine, Brad Lambert. He was at Marshall last year. It's a similar style of defense. They've got a defensive end. I can't even pronounce his name, but he's number 5. So, you know, I always know guys by their number. I mean, he's a really, really talented player. So we got to be aware where he's at. Number 6, their Sam linebacker's very talented. They're a little bit younger in the secondary, but they're long. They can run. I mean, I thought they gave Notre Dame all they could handle there for a while until they made a few big plays on them.
Tony, what have you thought of your offensive line through 4 games? What you liked? What needs to get better?
The offensive line?
Yeah.
You know what? I like where our offensive line's at. I wish we could stay a little bit more healthy right there. Like I would have loved to have had Doug in there and been able to play Blake some at guard. And just, you know, when you don't have your center that's like your dude, I mean, that just, you know, that hurts, you know, right there. But Blake did a great job, went in and played his butt off in there. But it would have been great to have Doug in there and just be a little bit more healthy up front. You know, we've had some little dings here and there that have kept one position down here or there. And we're not 8, 9 deep right there. You know, we're in that 5 to 6 range, and that matters anytime we lose somebody.
On Friday night, Coach Vila had mentioned that the play call, that critical 6-minute left, 2nd and 4, that there was discussion on the headset that it was a 4-down territory.
Correct.
Does that change your mindset of the previous downs when you're calling that? How do as a team you approach that?
So if Coach B lets me know we're in a 4-down situation, that's going to change how I call 2nd and 3rd down. Because what he's saying is if we're close enough, there's a chance that we're going to go for it on 4th down right there. So I'm gonna usually be a little bit different play caller on 2nd and 3rd down, trying to put us into a 4th and 1 really at the worst, or get it on 3rd down. And that would have been huge for us right there. We actually had, you know, when I was talking about the little details, I mean, our 2nd down call right there was so close to popping through for a monster run right there. So when he says we got 4 downs, or this is a potential 4 down, he's letting me know that I can adjust how I'm going to call 2nd and 3rd down because there might be a 4th down call.
And were you anticipating that with the 3rd down call? Were you anticipating that? I know it was kind of a fake punt kind of situation, but were you anticipating getting another call there?
Well, what I do is I anticipate getting another call if he decides to give me another call. But I'm making my call with the assumption that if we get close enough, he's going to say, you've got a 4th down call. And if we don't get what he feels is comfortable with and he punts, then we punt the football. And that's totally up to him. He's the head coach.
You had 2 drives in the first half, got inside the 10, blocked field goal, and then James made one. Just what maybe needed to be different there to punch it in?
Just executing at a little bit higher level, just a little bit better on some plays. I think in our first 17 plays, we literally had 4 or 5 plays that we felt like potentially really could have been touchdown type of plays, whether they were down in the red zone or outside the red zone. And just as coaches and players and everybody being a little bit better, a little bit more strained, a little bit more focused to execute a little higher level on those plays, and you turn some of those like decent and big plays into touchdowns right there. So, because when we get in the red zone, I mean, I love our kicker's one of the best in the country, and I love him. But we got to think touchdowns because you got to get 7 points down there as much as you can.
You've spoken a lot about
Last
being
question.
really close to getting big plays, or just kind of executing and just falling a little bit short. Heading into this week, what are the areas you're trying to really hit on so you are able to hit on those big plays this week?
I mean, you know, it all depends on what position you're coaching. You know, I'm coaching the quarterbacks. Mine's on decisions and making the right decision with the football. up front, you know, Bart's talking to the guys about getting a hat on the right hat, but then sustaining it just that little bit longer right there. At the running back position, you know, making sure I got my pads low and I'm running through arm tackles and getting that extra little. At the wide receiver position, getting that little extra block on the safety. I mean, it's all the little things at every position, and that's the difference between, you know, here and there as far as how you produce on the football field, and that's what's great about the sport.